right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for podcast number 38. And this one is about your book.
That's right. It's a bit of a special one. Made Madness is coming to a close. So for those of you who don't know, some of you might have heard this and just, hearsay talk or whatever or on the Discord. But I am writing a book. And it is close to being done, relatively, considering that writing a book is a very long process, but it's called Battle Lines, and it's really awesome, and this is where we're going to start basically shilling the book.
Yeah, we're going to be promoting, woohoo!
Yes. So, basically, this is a book that I've always wanted to write a book. Like, we love stories.
Oh, yeah.
And the next logical step after enjoying stories is to make them yourself, and get them out there so that hopefully some people out there can have the same experience that I did from, when I read my first book or whatever,
Exactly.
It's awesome. So, yeah, that's basically the whole why of this. For like a little, one sentence sort of sum up to, teaser.
Yeah.
This book is a sci-fi coming-of-age story about a group of kids that are trained to become space soldiers to save humanity, but how high of a cost is too high?
Now that's interesting, because, guys, I'm all about those blind reactions, right? I've actually intentionally held back on asking Jacob anything about the book.
He knows very little.
I know very, very little. I know how some of the characters are named, and I know what kind of the general overall kind of hook into the story is. But other than that, I don't know any details or really even what the plot or the ending really is. So I'm really excited to ask him questions that can then get at the kind of the meat of the book with you guys, without going into direct spoilers. Obviously.
Of course.
So what can people expect from the book in terms of themes and overall kind of design structure?
Not to toot my own horn, but I do some pretty cool things in this book. I can't, of course, get into the details too much, but the main themes are around morality and family and trust and things like that, because the group of kids that become these space soldiers, they're all from various horrible backgrounds, and then they are brought together and they become like a family, right?
Cool.
But yeah, overall, it's got plenty of action, plenty of heart, those good, calm moments in between the action.
Yeah, we're all about those.
Yeah, because you have to have those. I would always get so disappointed when there would be some great show or story, and it would have, and when it did it would be really good, but they wouldn't do it very
And they just
often.
throw the characters completely under the bus for plot and
or they do it one awesome conversation every 6 episodes or something, and it's no.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Yeah. But you know me, there will be plenty of, badass space armor being badass.
Of course.
Because you have to have that. I mean, why else would I write a sci-fi story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because armor is amazing.
Yeah.
It will also have lots of anime references.
Oh.
And I mean quite a few.
Okay.
So,
anime references, awesome.
Yeah. Not overt, but if
you know kind of your stuff, you should be able to pick them out.
Yeah, and
so I could probably pick out 90% of them because I know most of what you've watched.
Yeah, and it'll probably be a combination between
fun.
Making you laugh and making you just cringe and be oh my god,
oh my gosh. Okay, I hope that works out. So guys, we have a special thing for you guys.
Yes.
As we said earlier, this is towards the end of May Madness, and our lovely Discord members have unlocked a special tier of content, which is a sneak peek of your book. Yes. And we're going to read 50-50 of this little excerpt, right?
Yeah, this is a little bit from the prologue. Hopefully, expounds a little bit on the whole theming ideas and stuff like that to give you a good little overview. This, of course, is not necessarily finished, so when you see the final product, it might be a little bit different.
Right, but, you haven't done the copy editing yet.
Right, yeah. For those of you who don't know, there are many rounds of editing that happen with writing, and not all of them are as simple as grammar changes. So
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So let's get into this snippet and read it for you guys.
The piercing cold air of the Tre mining tunnel stung Mercury's face and invaded his lungs. When Sol administered the perfect memory serum, the 8-year-old boy barely felt the injection. His vision suddenly became hyper-focused. The drug must be taking effect. The next several minutes would be forever burned into his brain. Perfect memories only worked on children, and only once or twice at that. Whatever was about to happen, it must be important. Sol must be about to give him some vital lesson. With the injection over, Mercury put his helmet back on. The click and hiss as his helmet resealed itself was even more pronounced than normal. Mercury's breath turned to half a dozen thin jets of fog as it filtered through his helmet's respiration system. His therm suit was toasty warm, despite the external temperatures being cold enough to freeze his eyes in their sockets. All was dark, except for the blue light from Sol's visor casting a filter over his world. Glittering stalagmites and stalactites filled the dead-end mining tunnel, and amidst them, on the rippling icy ground, sat the hero of his childhood. Not that he could remember much of his childhood. He knew he had run away from home, but that had been almost 4 months ago. 4 months since joining the Air, Navy, and Ground Elite. Now he was an angel. He had his nights in the dream tank and his days in forging. Nothing else mattered. Even though the tunnel they were in was massive and Sol was sitting down, he seemed to fill every centimeter of frozen space. The old general looked more a machine than man in his full body Treyite armor. A blue visor shone down from atop the tower of interlocking bands made from the rarest metal in this universe. There was not another suit like it in existence. A sword lay across his lap, gleaming shards of ice still clinging to it along its impossibly sharp edge. The weapon was also forged from Treyite. Sol was clad in the sum total of this harsh planet's wealth. To the Federation's masses, the man was Genrick Ross, the Minister of War. To the military, he was the Supreme Commander, callsign Archangel, the man who had almost single-handedly won the Second Terusian War. Mercury called him Sol, but he was more than that. He was a teacher. He was a leader. He was like a father. He was larger than life in every way Mercury could imagine. He was the hero of the weak that fought the good fight without asking for anything in return. He was the personification of everything Mercury hoped to one day become. Picking up the sword on his lap, Sol gestured at the cracked hole in the icy floor where the blade had until just recently been embedded. Sit. As always, his voice was steel. Mercury obeyed. The first thing Sol had hammered into his skull when he took Mercury in was to always obey without question. Silence filled the air as Mercury waited for Sol to speak. I've killed thousands with my own hands because of my sworn duty to the Federation. Millions of innocents have died by my orders for the sake of billions. The boy blinked under his helmet. Had he heard that right? What? He knew Sol had killed people. He was a soldier after all. But he only killed bad guys, right? Innocents? Mercury asked. What do you mean? War is messy, Mercury. There's no way around that. One day you will be in a position where you have to weigh lives on a scale. Mercury shifted uncomfortably on the ice. Nations fall under indecisive leadership. Sol went on. You must be decisive. When you have the weight of 100 billion souls resting on your shoulders, you can't afford to make mistakes. That was wrong. Mercury could feel his chest getting tight. What do you mean, Sol? Are you saying I'll have to kill innocent people? Yes. Sol's voice chilled Mercury even inside his therm suit. You must not hesitate. No, Mercury blurted out. Sol's helmet tilted to the side. What did you say? Mercury's skin crawled at the memories of the last time he had said no to Sol. He would take a week of forging rather than relive that experience. That's wrong. The boy stood up quickly. When I joined you, you said I would be helping people. You swore to follow my every order. Sol was stern. It doesn't matter what you think is right or wrong. You are my subordinate, and you will follow orders. But, sit. If Sol discharged him now, he would probably be okay. His family would probably take him back in, but he had left them behind. He became an angel because he wanted to help people like Sol did. He sat down. After letting out a sigh, Sol continued in a softer tone. Listen, Mercury. Inaction is the luxury of the complacent. Those with the power to take action have a duty to take action. He gestured at his armor. You know this suit was instrumental to winning the Second Terusian War. But where do you think it came from? You know the inhabitants of this planet are worked like slaves. Yes. Mercury pulled his legs close to his chest. You know how rare Treyite is. How many people do you think died to mine it? Mercury didn't know. He didn't want to know. He simply stared at the feet of his therm suit. He felt tears start to run down his face. Killing people to help people? What did that even mean? Today I just commissioned enough trade for 6 more suits, Sol said. One of them is for you. The boy's eyes darted up. Why would you do that? He demanded, voice full of anger. There's another war coming, Sol said. A bigger war. And it's a very real possibility this will be humanity's last war. At the very least, it will certainly be the end of life as we know it. Mercury swallowed as the weight of Sol's words sunk in. You agreed to sacrifice whatever you had to in order to help people. Did you lie? No, Mercury choked up. I meant it. You know I meant it, but... Don't spout excuses, Mercury. You're better than that. He had been ready to give up his own comforts, but not to take the lives of good people. That's wrong! Mercury felt the silence consume his words. You're right, Sol said. Killing is never justified. Never. Every time you take a life, you must remember that person had family, friends. Sometimes we have to do terrible things in order to prevent something even more horrible. You understood that when you decided to become a soldier. Mercury started crying inside his helmet. That's different. I wanted to fight bad guys. I wanted to help people. Listen, Mercury. Sol spoke slowly. There's no such thing as good guys and bad guys. Just people. Everyone does bad things sometimes. Some more than others. They're still people. We don't fight and kill monsters, but people. I didn't sign up for this. So will you force someone else to bear the burden? Sol challenged. Is that the kind of person you are? With some effort, Mercury forced himself to stop crying. No. Who are you? Sol demanded. I'm Mercury, the boy said with a sniff. How many thousands of times had he repeated those words over the past few months? And why are you here, Mercury? The glowing blue visor of Sol's helmet terrified the boy, but it also bolstered him. Although Sol was beyond harsh, he treated him like an equal. To help people, he said. Are you willing to do what is necessary to help people, even if it means killing? Mercury knew that if he said no, Sol would be finished with him. He would find someone else to be his protégé. Yes, he answered. No matter who? Mercury sniffed. Then he nodded. He looked up at Sol. The glowing blue visor of his hero filled him with the resolve he needed. He would do whatever was necessary to help people. If that meant killing, then he would kill whoever it was that needed killing. No matter who. Good. Sol stood and Mercury did likewise. He barely came up to the general's waist. One day, Mercury, you will have to make the hard choices. Until that day, let the morality of what you do rest on my shoulders. A weapon isn't responsible for the actions of the person using it. Yes, sir, Mercury nodded. You said it was wrong to sacrifice others, Sol said as they walked back up the winding tunnel towards Björnhall's surface. You're right, Mercury. It is wrong. You must never let yourself become numb to the choices you make. So hold on to that strong sense of right and wrong. He looked over his shoulder and locked Mercury's gaze. Hold on to it and never let go, because once you do, you're lost. With those words, Mercury was put at ease. There was something about Sol's overwhelming confidence that assured him the old general could not possibly be wrong. An inexplicable deep sense that Sol had everything under control. Though Mercury did not understand why, he had never trusted Sol more completely than he did now. He would follow this man to the ends of the universe. He would jump feet first into the fiery bullet storms of hell itself if Sol asked him to. A couple minutes later, Mercury felt the perfect memory serum start to fade. Sol had chosen this moment to burn into his brain. As long as Mercury lived, he would never forget what Sol taught him here.
Wow. Okay. All right. So I'm getting kind of a father-son vibe from these two characters. Sol seems to be kind of the older figure here. Yeah. Mercury's obviously referred to as a boy.
Yep.
Now, if I remember correctly, Mercury is one of the main characters.
Yes, he is the main character. One of the things that I do in this story is that I make there be like Mercury is definitely the main character, but there's a bunch of kind of main characters, or at least perspective characters, that it kind of switches between, because they're a squad. So it might like be one person's perspective for most of the time, but then sometimes it'll jump to someone else's perspective, things like that.
Awesome. So I have a couple questions that I'm going to ask you, kind of interview style. One thing that I would want to know kind of first off is that I'm a new reader. I am looking at this book kind of on the cover.
Sure.
And while I get the, it's a sci-fi coming of age story, squad of super soldiers and stuff, like, is this going to be a more high intense action, driven story? Or is this going to be more of a character study story or a blend of the two? And like how far on which side of it would it be?
It's not like a complete character study story because there is a ton of action.
Okay.
But it's not one of those books that's sort of like the those like dime a dozen action movies that you watch in theaters, but then when you're done you can't really remember like what the movie was actually about.
Okay.
It's just like, whoa, that was a fun thrill ride. This is not that.
Okay.
This is not that. But when the action happens, it is pretty awesome.
Cool. That leads actually into a follow-up question I had. Was you talked about kind of dime a dozen action films, and you're talking about how you wanted to elevate this to something beyond that by having the heart and the intense action and stuff.
Because that's what makes you care about it.
What were some of your inspirations for this book in particular?
Well, that's one of the interesting things because, since writing a book takes a really long time, I started writing this book, a couple years ago.
Right.
So I hadn't seen things like A Silent Voice yet, that were like some of my favorites,
Gotcha.
right? So it was more things like Attack on Titan and Black Lagoon and like Wolf Children and things like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
None of those are sci-fi action.
No.
Things. So what was your sci-fi inspiration then? Where did you draw inspiration from for the sci-fi element?
So, as some of you may know, I am a huge Mandalorian fanboy, and
that makes sense.
Yeah. And one of I'd always thought about like wanting to make basically Mandalorian fan fiction, right? But when I thought about that, I was like, oh, but that doesn't quite seem right. I want to make my own version of the whole Mandalorian idea that was in my head, right? What I liked so much about the Mandalorians in Star Wars,
right?
But make it a separate, different thing because there are still little things that weren't as awesome to me about Mandalorians and things like that. So I was like, okay, but the important thing is like the badassery, the space armor, know, and the dedication to the thing that they consider to be valuable. So I basically extracted that, and I was like, okay, what can I do with this? And then I got the idea of the kids in their training program in this story.
Okay, I'm going to ask you some questions more as a writer.
Okay.
So I think a lot of the people that'll be watching this will be thinking like, that's really awesome, I can't wait to read it. But there'll also be a smaller crowd that'll be like, now, I want to write my own book, but I would like to ask kind of the questions of what are the things that keep you writing, because you're towards the end. You're near the finishing stages of writing a book. What are the kind of things that you would advise new writers who maybe are more towards the beginning stages to help get them to where you're at in terms of, like, get them to where the stage of their book would be for you? So
what I would say, this is one of those things that this is such a big deal for me because it took me a really long time to figure this out.
Okay.
Thankfully, I had it figured out before I went into writing this book, and that was like what made me actually realize, like, okay, I'm going to do something different because now that I know this stuff, I need to start fresh, like from scratch on a story. And that was that the first draft is going to be crap all the time anyways. And here's the thing. Almost nothing from the first draft is probably going to make it into the last draft.
So to follow up with that,
basically,
you would say to make sure that people understand that they are going to be a writer first, and not an editor alongside their first draft.
Exactly.
Writing.
Like think about like if you're playing Skyrim or something, right? And you're wanting to like max out your forging, and you get all the materials ready. You get a bunch of materials at one time. You don't alternate between making stuff and getting materials every single time you make something. But then you basically just craft a bunch of iron daggers, right? And you make a ton of them.
I get the comparison. I haven't played much Skyrim or at all, really. But
it's the same basic thing. You will get better at writing the more you write. The actual words that you are writing early on won't really matter.
But just the fact that you are writing those words, regardless of what they are,
it'll make you better at it. Yeah, like the amount of time that it took you when you were a kid to draw something, and the amount that you got from that time investment wasn't that great, right? But now it would probably be a lot better.
Okay.
Same kind of thing with writing. Don't be hard on yourself if your first draft sucks.
That's awesome.
Natural.
Okay, so you've now kind of moved towards kind of the final stages of the editing process and stuff. You've gone over multiple drafts of this book.
Yep. Just finished draft 3.
Okay, draft 3. Wow. So now that you are kind of at the final finishing touches of like details and stuff on the book, what's the biggest thing that you've learned as a writer that was more like recent, like as you're coming up towards the end? What's one of those big things that's kind of stuck with you?
Ooh. Okay. Focus on the process, not like the inputs, not necessarily the outputs, because on like a first draft, it's pretty easy to say like, okay, I want to do this many words every day.
Okay.
And then you can just sort of turn off the internal editor, and the words might end up being crap, but that's okay. It helps you get into that process of writing and things like that. But once you get into the editing, it's kind of different, because now you're like, okay, now I need to start thinking about quality and stuff.
Sure.
And with anything that, like, I mean, you need to stay consistent with something like this, right? That's how you'll actually make progress in any reasonable amount of time, because it's going to take a lot of time. If you
definitely.
Like, all the times when I ended up like getting nothing done for, some period of time, it's because I wasn't consistent. I didn't have like a daily do where I'm like, okay, I don't need to think about writing the whole book. I just need to think about finishing that part, whatever I need to do today.
For sure.
And when that wasn't very clear, I wouldn't get very much stuff done. But when it would be like, okay, I'm going to wake up early in the morning, and first thing, after like having breakfast is writing, and I'm going to write until this time, and then I'll be good, and I'll consider that to be enough writing for the day. That made it so much easier.
Cool.
So,
okay, so
guys, do it.
Yeah. So another question I had was thinking about, if I was writing the book, one of the things that I would be feeling probably right about the time where you're at right now is, what is the feeling of having a completed project like? So you've come so far. You can look back on your journey with hindsight and stuff, but what are you feeling right now as you approach the end of writing this book? Like, is there like nervousness, trepidation? Are you more excited
absolutely.
or just relieved? Like, unpack that.
Absolutely excited, absolutely nervous. Basically all of the above, because so there will always be things in your mind of basically things that you want to change about your story, right?
Gotcha.
Especially the further into it you get, because you'll get so close to it that you'll basically stop giving yourself credit for all the really good things that you've done, right? Because you've looked over it 20 times.
Right.
That doesn't impress you anymore.
Right.
Right?
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I would say that's one of the big things that I've felt towards the end of it, and that can cause you to feel like, or at least for me, on the bad days it can be like, I want to be done with this story. But then I'll go back, and I'll have someone be like, no, like, look at it with fresh eyes or something, and I'll go back through and I'll be like, oh, wait, no, that part is actually pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to ask you a bunch of questions about yourself in that, and I think we got that good there, but you mentioned something in that, like, you tend to overlook the things that you do well.
Yes.
Do you find that the things that you do well in the book get less focus because you're like, I don't need to revisit that? And if so, like, what are some of those things in the book? Because I'm curious, like, what are some of the things in the book do you feel like, oh yeah, I nailed those parts pretty well?
Well, a couple of cool things that I think I just do in some interesting ways that I can't really go into in detail because spoilers.
Right.
But the dialogue, I would say, is generally pretty good.
Awesome.
Like, I mean, I try to not...
Toot your own horn. Go for it.
Okay, yeah. I really like the dialogue in this book.
Cool.
Like the characters, and making it so that they showing basically that they care about things.
Ah.
Because one of the things that really bugs me in stories, and hey, this is why we like Haikyuu so much, is because the characters care, right? That's why Deku, in the first 3 episodes of My Hero Academia hit us so hard, because we saw how much they cared.
Yeah.
And when I had started, writing this book, one of the things I wanted to have there be is that there's the big conflict type stuff, but the idea that in a lot of ways, almost the more important conflict was interpersonal.
Awesome. Okay.
And I like how I do that stuff.
Awesome. So
pretty good.
I'm going to rapid fire you a bunch of just little ones that are just really simple, like one word answers and stuff. Do you have a favorite character in the book? And if so, what's their name?
Yes, and not telling.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, cool. How many like important characters would you say are in this book?
The core, I would say, is 7, because
7?
you've got 6 kids, and then you've got Sol, the commander.
The commander.
But then there's a bunch of other characters that are also definitely main characters, but they have a bit less like screen time.
Gotcha.
There's probably another 7 of those.
Okay, cool. And approximately how many pages are going to be in this book, would you say?
Well, okay, so it's going to be released as an ebook first, so I don't know exactly how that's going to translate for the ebook thing. The way I have it in Word, it's going to be about 400 pages. That's what I'm shooting for.
Gotcha.
So about 120,000 words. So
awesome.
Yeah,
it's decently sized.
Yeah.
Are you thinking at all about sequels? No. Okay.
This is a standalone book.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. So with the narratives overall, like, they generally have kind of a 3-act kind of structure.
Yep.
Is there a particular act of the book that's your favorite?
That's tough.
Okay.
That is really tough. I like them. Okay, I know this sounds like totally stupid and cheesy to say, but I like them all for different reasons.
Okay.
In the first act, there's a lot of like the characters kind of growing up, because the excerpt that we read was from the prologue. So Mercury's very young there. He ends up growing up a bit over the course of the story, right?
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of fun things that happen there. But then at the same time, like, I really. I really like the final act. There's a lot of cool things that happen in the final act.
Okay.
And the middle act is like... well, I don't really want to say why I like the middle act, but...
okay. So next rapid fire question here is, when you think about this story in a visual format, what's the closest like medium out there that explains what this would look like if it was in, say, a show or a movie?
All right, come on, Caleb. That's an easy one.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, I've figured out, like, if this was an anime, like, I've casted all the characters.
No.
Like,
I just meant, what does it look like?
Gotcha. Like something else that exists out there, and like what would I imagine it being a lot like?
Right.
Well, Attack on Titan and Black Lagoon were 2 of the big influencers for this story.
The visuals.
Well, not so much for the visuals,
That's what I mean,
but
the visuals.
But that was what I was thinking of. So those 2 would probably fit really well. Also, Fate Zero, at least as far as the armor goes, because Berserker in Fate Zero is amazing, and a prime example of amazing anime CG.
Cool.
As for visuals, I don't know beyond that.
All right. Now,
it wouldn't be a Kyoto Annie work.
If you could choose one person out there in the world to read your book, just for them to get it into their hands and to have them read it, who would that be?
Like the person where I'd be like, oh my gosh, I still want them to read it, but at the same time I'm like about to throw up because
right. You can choose a lot. If you want,
all right. I'll just say the people that come to mind.
Go for it.
Crispin Freeman. I'm a big fan of him from Haruhi and all that. Matt Mercer. That would be amazing.
Any others?
Pierce Brown.
Pierce Brown.
Okay,
cool. Up and coming author. Yeah.
George R. R. Martin.
R. R. Martin. All right, cool.
And then the creator of Attack on Titan.
Isayama.
Yeah, Isayama. Because, of course.
Awesome. All right.
People living, that's probably it.
Yeah, okay. So this one's, you know, you don't have to make it spoilery or anything like that. But if you could choose one line of dialogue that is like the funniest.
Oh, the funniest. Oh, okay. That makes it much better. I thought you were going to say like my favorite. I'm like, well,
no. If you could just like the funniest line of dialogue in the book, if you know it in your head, I'd love to hear it. Because something tells me that the dialogue is really good. You've thought about having some funny parts in there.
Oh yes, they're like I want to make sure.
Or the funniest scene, you know.
I want to make sure like that it's not like overly comical, because I don't like it when characters are dedicated comic relief.
Gotcha.
With the exception of Isaac and Miria from Baccano, because they are amazing.
So there's no dedicated comic relief characters in this story.
No. But I mean, you know, some people are funnier than others, and you know, people will say funny things when they're in a comfortable environment.
Okay.
Oh, my favorite line. Let me think about it. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, cool. Only other question I have is, you know, you've essentially finished the overall general plot.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Are there like any like really like special hidden things of, like you said, there are anime references and such.
Oh yeah.
But are there any like special hidden things that you really want like people to pick up on, or are like, I want to see if people will pick up on them?
See, here's the thing. That would kind of defeat the purpose if I told everybody.
Okay.
Because since you've seen the Disappearance movie, I can use this as a reference, but one of the things that made me love the Disappearance movie, and because of that, the Haruhi series so much, was because of how it basically shed additional light on the series, and then made me pick up on a bunch of things that were way too subtle to pick up on like first viewing.
Cool.
I love it when stories do that, because then that can keep your wheels turning about the story after you've left the story.
It encourages rewatching and rereading or what have you.
One of the things that I love it when stories do this is where they make it where you finish the story, and then immediately afterwards you're like, I kind of want to restart it right now. Cool. I love it when that happens. All
right.
Yeah. So.
Awesome. Yeah, that's the end of my questions.
Cool.
Thank you very much for coming on here, Jacob, as an aspiring author. It's a pleasure to meet you. Yes. All right, guys, we're going to get into our Q&A section really quick.
Yes.
But right before we do that, Jacob has some news for us.
Oh, yeah.
About the book.
So for the book, of course, we're going to be shilling it like crazy on the channel.
Promoting.
Yeah. Yes. Leading up to the release, which will be sometime this year. It's one of the funny things about this whole process is that I learn more and more about what is needed in order to get the book ready for launch. So that's why I'm not... As I come closer and closer to it. Yeah. So that's why I'm not like giving like a specific date or anything.
Okay.
I'm hopeful to be basically making it available for pre-order in the next couple months or something.
Ooh, okay.
But that's, we'll see how that goes.
Awesome. Okay.
But there is also a newsletter that you can get on if you want to like stay super up to date with info on this and all that stuff. I'll try and throw some extra goodies in there as well. But there's the link in the description for our website, and there is a section on there that will be very easy to see, just front of the front page of the website deal for getting on the newsletter.
Awesome.
So do that if you are interested.
Link in the description.
Yes, link in the description.
Just give them your email.
Yep, give email, and I'll keep you up to date on all that good stuff.
Cool beans. All right, well, sounds great, guys. We're gonna head off into the Q&A section of the podcast. So thank you very much for watching this, and hopefully you stick around for these cool questions we got.
And make sure to leave your questions for the next podcast in the comments of this one.
Yeah.
So
All right. So the first question is from Teo Leduc. Of all of the animes you have seen, which one would you recommend to your parents representing the waifu warriors? Okay, so...
I know, but which one would you say?
Yeah, well, the thing is that we've already introduced a lot of anime to our parents. So I think it's actually really important to say... Yeah, I think it's really important to let them know which ones we actually introduce them to first. I was a really big fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I know that's not typically an anime.
But you can't go wrong there.
But the thing is that the characters that were, adults carried enough maturity to which they were easily identifiable as good characters by our parents. So Avatar: The Last Airbender is anime light, and it was a very good starting point for them because they both loved it. They both wanted to rewatch it, and it wasn't too difficult for them to get into. But yeah, maybe you should give a more like strict
I would say
anime.
Sweetness and Lightning, because that show is just adorable and amazing and really sweet.
And you haven't shown them this one yet.
No, I actually showed our mom the first episode, and she liked it. We haven't seen any more of it yet because reasons. But that is a really fun one. Also, Usagi Drop. Just make sure that you never, ever, 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 ever mention the existence of the manga because, as we know, Usagi Drop is an anime original.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, next question is from Ryan H. It says, can Caleb cosplay as Kurapika, representing the waifu warriors? Well, can or will I? I can, probably. I now have those little finger chain things.
That's true.
So I can use my conjuring abilities / specialist abilities. But the thing is that, like, I am not the biggest cosplayer.
He isn't.
I need to get inducted into it in a very slow...
Get the cosplay bug. Yeah.
Right. I now could cosplay, technically, Hinata from Haikyuu.
That's true.
I guess we'll just have to see.
You're also a bit tall for Hinata, maybe.
Whatever.
Yeah.
All right, we have a question from Lex the Graceful Rival.
As authors whose work might get adaptations one day, how much freedom do you think adaptations should have when it comes to diverging from their source material? And what's your opinions on original anime endings?
That's a tough one. I feel like every single adaptation should have some freedom to be able to diverge from the source material. Sure. I have seen literal, word to screen adaptations, and they're horrible. Just gonna say. But generally, an adaptation is going to have someone else's vision put into it, an interpretation, if you will. So I think they should have enough freedom to put their spin on things as long as they're willing to keep the original creator's vision in mind. If they're going to completely throw away the original creator's vision, then they've overstepped their bounds.
Gotcha.
What is your opinion on that?
You wanna keep the original creator's vision in mind, absolutely, when you're doing an adaptation, because you want to make sure you retain the soul of what it was that was originally created, right?
Sure.
Because it's an adaptation. That being said, things being different is okay, and there are a lot of stories out there that I would hope they would get a sequel just to do an anime original ending, because I know the original material goes on for so long.
Right.
Like Spice and Wolf, Haruhi, Black Lagoon.
Gotcha.
So I'm actually all for anime original endings if that's the best course of action kind of a thing.
Gotcha. I have really no opinions on anime original endings. I'm not as well versed to be able to give much opinion on that.
Gotcha.
Next question is from Kartika Santi. Question from the Antagonist Ascendancy faction. Can you give me more examples of any form of media, books, anime, live action, that you think can be on par with Haikyuu in terms of about a story that's very character-based? Ooh, that's tough.
That is very, very tough.
Because the thing is, Haikyuu instantly goes to the head of the pack, in my opinion, because the characters are not only so good, there's such a large number of them. I think it's very easy to go for a story that's very character-driven and character-based that has a small cast of characters.
Sure, yes.
But with Haikyuu, it just kicks anything else that has a large cast to the
You've got your ensemble cast and nosebleed going on.
Oh, yeah, just spray. I completely have a hard-on for the large cast of characters done all very well.
Yeah.
You had something you were going to say.
Yes, so I would say, Haikyuu is very special because of how it does it with, sports and, and all that stuff. But I would say with good, drama and or romance, this is another one of the areas where you'll get that a lot, albeit with fewer characters.
Right.
Because the entire story is dependent upon that, right?
Right. It's the interactions of at least two characters.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that I think Haikyuu did that was so surprising for a lot of people is because it was, setting high school, plot, volleyball games.
Right.
They were able to focus on the characters so much because those two other things were so, not complicated.
Right. Okay, but you do have a specific recommendation?
So for Toradora, for anime, Toradora as a show, I love that show. It's so great.
I agree. That's
and then for movies, A Silent Voice, because of course that one is amazing, and Wolf Children. Both of those movies are solidly, like, solely character focused, and they're amazing.
Yeah. I don't really want to say this show it is live action, because this show gets so much crap for how many little things it does wrong. But Lost, as far as a live action show that focused on characters, look to some of the earlier moments in the show, and you'll see some incredible standalone character-driven episodes that do carry over somewhat into the overall main plot. But the characters really carried the story of Lost through all of its pitfalls and problems.
Right.
So
they really did.
I really got to give that one props. Also, that one does have a large cast of characters, so it comes into it fulfills that itch for me. Bilgewater Blues asks, now that you've completed the saga of Tanya the Evil, what other unconventional or wacky type of story or setting would you like to see a lolly protagonist? Shout out to the League of Lollies on Discord. All right.
That is an excellent question.
That is a very excellent question. The thing is about Saga of Tanya the Evil is that we did not see any of that kind of character dynamic thing coming. It's so outlandish and ridiculous that I almost don't want something that wacky.
Sure, because it's the juxtaposition of the fact that it's, cute little girl, slaughtering people and flying through the skies with magic and things in a...
But having also having the mind of a 40-something-year-old guy,
potentially sociopath.
Yeah. That kind of thing was it was interesting. I really don't see any specific kind of gimmicks that I would like to see a cute little girl kind of doing crazy stuff, kind of going for it.
Yeah.
What I would like to see more of, though, is the cute girl getting thrust maybe into another crazy environment situation, very much like the alternate reality that Tanya was jumped into.
Sure, yeah. Why do we need to have a male protagonist for the isekais? I mean,
Well, right, but I'm not even saying specifically an isekai. I was saying that having her go from a normal environment to a very chaotic, different environment via some kind of plot hook. If any show in particular comes to mind that's like that, give us a recommendation in the comments. I think it doesn't have to be an isekai, but an isekai might be the easiest genre version of that in an anime format.
And there's probably a bunch of them, but they just aren't as wacky and out there as Saga of Tanya the Evil, hence why they might go under the radar.
For sure. Sen Ogino asks, representing antagonist ascendancy, what is your favorite character design in Hunter x Hunter? Oh, that's a very, very close... Okay, so we're both going to say Crollo, I think, right?
No.
Oh.
No.
Oh, okay. So Crollo is huge for me. I think Crollo fits the just enough edge, and character with all the charisma.
Sure.
But I gotta say, and you're going to laugh, but I really love Bisky, actually.
Oh.
Even though she is kind of atypical in the design complements the personality behind the character.
Okay.
And the design is not something that's unique, like, at all. I just really love how the design was chosen for this character in particular. I'm talking about both designs, if you know what I'm saying, for Bisky. All right, what about you?
Karapika. Because, here's why. Yeah. Karapika's design was cool, and all that, right? It's great. But when I first saw Karapika with the one chain glove, I was just like, okay, that is amazing. Because Karapika already had sort of like the monk cleric kind of a look. And then the fact that the powers played along with that very well. And the aesthetic was just simple but awesome and wasn't like super flashy. I loved it so much. It was amazing.
Okay. In Haikyuu, we've heard a lot of catchy team chants during Inter-High, but not for Karasuno. If you were to make a team chant for our boys, what would it be? Oh, that's tough. Like a team chant... Karasuno. Oh my gosh, that's funny. I'm gonna go even funnier. Meat is God, meat is God, meat is God. Okay. Like that's basically That's basically what I would do. Just keep that one going and have Kageyama doing his stupid bits. That's all you need. Ryan H, another follow-up question saying, favorite rom-com, Waifu Warriors. As far as favorite rom-com,
Toradora.
It's probably Toradora. I can't really think of anything that even comes close. Like, there are other romantic stories out there, but in terms of rom-com...
Right, because, like, I feel like...
I'm trying to think of also, like, non-animes as well.
Yeah.
Because there's some out there in the live-action format that are pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah. Toradora just wins because the TV show format allows for deeper character development.
Well, and a lot of the times I feel like shows will go for a comedy with a slight romantic subplot. Or they'll go for a romance...
And then like one comedy character.
With the one comedy character.
Yeah, that's not what a rom-com is. All right, another question from Ryan H. So what would you do with your limited magic if you were the devil and Devil is a part-timer? Well, okay, so we came up with the whole haunted house idea thing.
Yeah.
I would try to figure out some way that, we could make that whole thing work there.
All right.
And then maybe focus around a business of catching people's reactions, to the haunted house format,
So
and
become a reverse reaction show?
Right, but we would reinvest our magic into making the haunted house even more popular and scary, which is funny because I would be a complete hypocrite and then I wouldn't be able to even go through the haunted house myself because I easily scared by all those kinds of things.
But
so that's how I would use it.
But if it had to be limited, like
that's my point. Is that it would be the limited magic to make that, and then it would get more bash with the haunted house.
All right.
What about you?
I would probably do something along the lines of trying to conjure like diamonds or something. Just go for something basic, and then I think at that point I'd be able to do some cool stuff with that.
The money that you get
with
from
the money
diamonds.
from that.
They're like, these are not approved diamonds, sir.
Did you steal these?
Yeah, the FBI is going to take you away. All right, next question is from that one, Gav. In paying homage to one of the greatest groups of antagonists in media, what are your 3 favorite Phantom Troop members? Shout out the antagonist ascendancy. Hey, so here's the thing, the Phantom Troop as characters have gotten 6 of them to be primarily focused on, and the other 7 didn't really.
Yeah, not as much. Yeah,
but if I had to choose my favorites just in terms of within the show and stuff, it's Hisoka, Crollo, and Uvogin, the ones that got all the story time and stuff. But I think we should answer also which upon first meeting them
were you that's gonna be a cool character.
That's gonna be a cool character.
Yeah,
because I really
like Machi.
I really liked Machi. I just gotta say,
yeah.
Machi as a character in the Phantom Troop was one of my favorites right out the gate.
And the whole introduction and the juxtaposition of the fact that they're this notoriously evil bad guy, band of people, and then there's Hisoka, who's his own, brand of weird.
Right.
And then Machi's there, and she's the first other one from the Phantom Troop we actually see other than Hisoka, and she seems so chill and normal. And I'm gonna do my sewing thing and stuff.
I love Machi. I know
she's
that
pretty awesome.
I know that Shizuku is pretty cool and pretty unique as far as antagonist, kind of in a shonen and stuff, because she doesn't seem evil at all.
Right.
And if anything, she seems completely out of she shouldn't even be a member of the group. Because she has the memory loss thing. But I really liked Uvogin's presence. When he was on screen, he demanded your attention in a different way than Crollo did. And I feel if I had to choose 3 based on just their kind of their presence that they carried with and kind of their unique aspect, I really liked Machi, Uvogin, and Shalnark, actually. Shalnark had this calm, smiling killer kind of thing going. You knew that he probably had killed people. But the thing was, he didn't give off any vibes of a killer.
Right.
He seemed, if anything, to be the team mom that kind of held things together. And was the most intelligent person there, maybe other than Crollo and one other. But he just knew what needed to be done. He stayed calm and focused, and he smiled way too often in a way that was ooh, why does this guy smile? So And that's like if I didn't pick upon like overall my favorites, but just upon like initial bits. I actually thought Krollo looked a little bit too edgy just from initial
Me too,
appearance.
actually, yeah.
So,
But then he ended up,
and then
it
he
ended up
stole our
working
hearts
so
and,
well, yeah.
And that's very much
not
intended.
copied.
Not
Yeah.
copied. Sorry, guys. But what about you?
Yeah, it probably, I mean, for top three, it would be the same Hisoka, Uvogin, and Krollo.
Right.
But for, like, first impressions kind of a thing, it'd be Shizuku, Machi, and I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
But the one that keeps coming up when I think about it is Nobunaga. Because that was where they basically, I feel like that was where they really, kept up the idea that, oh, that's right, this Uvogin guy, he had friends.
Right. Well, also when he was introduced in the beginning, Nobunaga, he almost initiated a fight with another Phantom Troop member when they were on their way to the meeting and stuff.
That's right.
And
so maybe not Nobunaga.
Oh, you don't?
I don't like it when characters like jump to fights very much because it makes them feel like you can get under their skin too easily. It makes them less cool in my mind.
Right. That's why I don't think either of us liked Feitan, for instance. Mm-hmm. He was way too edgy, and he also seemed to be the kind of person that was a little bit childish.
Right.
Even though you could tell he meant business.
Right.
Like
you
never
really take him seriously.
We never really saw
Cortopi.
anything. Cortopi.
Cortopi has a freaking cool design. Like just of the what can that person do? What's
I was
their
almost
story?
like, what is this small lost child? What is it? Yeah. What does it do?
Why won't they show her face? Like yeah.
All right, cool. So next question is from Error Anonymous. How do I avoid getting distracted by other ideas while I'm writing a story? Well, we kind of answered that story a little bit earlier, but to follow up with that, I think it's a little bit just more of reiterating what you said in more focus on the keeping away from getting distracted. It would be kind of making sure that you set little goals,
right,
and you reward yourself for hitting those goals, but you don't do anything else until you've hit those goals.
And also because you're going to get distracted.
Mm-hmm. Like, you are. Yeah, like, you can't avoid that.
Unless you are an actual robot, which unfortunately I don't think any of us are.
Yep.
You're going to get distracted. So have goals, have like a check-in, check-out system type thing where you're basically you have a space, have a dedicated space where when you're here you are working and you are doing nothing else.
Yep.
You're like nothing else. And then the idea that you basically keep a record of the work that you do and then regularly evaluate and check up and say, how am I doing?
Yeah.
Right? That way, when you start doing badly, you can recognize and be like, oh, I missed 3 things this week. I need to get back on this.
For sure. Next question is from Little Duck. Hey, what emotion gets you to empathize with a character more than anything else?
Okay. All right. Regret. Here's why I would say that. Because that kind of hints at basically 2 emotions.
Okay.
In my mind. One, the idea that they did something, right?
Right.
And they probably, in the moment that they did that thing, right, that was something that they cared about or whatever. They had some reasoning to do that. But then there's also this, because it's an automatic confliction, right? Conflict, where contradiction, that's what I was thinking of. I'm a writer. I know words. Because it basically sets the stakes for things. It can make you now interested in, okay, what's going to happen next, and also kind of give that character an underdog quality.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Yeah, as far as emotion, getting to empathize with the character, I really, really empathize with characters that are passionate. And I know that's not really an emotion, but it's basically the thing of Jacob saying that they have to care. If you knew absolutely nothing about a character, not even their voice, what emotion or experience being expressed would get you to feel for them? Really, it doesn't. This is the thing. I think for me, I feel for characters as long as I can believe that they're a character. Okay. The main thing that's important to me is that they express emotion. Characters that don't have emotion don't really get to me as much. Like, you need to have them focused on an emotion and express it convincingly.
Yeah, and it can be a really simple emotion.
It can be a really simple emotion. Like joy. Yeah. Like, it's probably the easiest one out there for me to empathize with, or to just kind of feel with them. Because the thing is, it's very strong, and you don't need to do a lot to show that they're excited. Like one of the things you'll see in a lot of anime is the main character tends to get excited very easily. And that doesn't necessarily mean excited in a positive way. That can mean, they get angry at the littlest things. People identify with extreme emotion. At the very least, it gets their attention and they go, oh, and it makes them ask questions as to why are they like this and stuff. Yeah. And if there's an immediate answer in there, they go, oh, that's why they're like this. And then they've now, on some level, connected with the character.
Ruby Trash. Do either of you have tips on how to write a character who switches the sides from the heroes to the villains? One-way switch, I'm guessing is what you're talking about?
I think they're actually talking about having them being a switcher. Like, that's a part of their character, is that they could constantly go back and forth.
Well, I mean, if you're going for, like, the spy type thing, I don't know, because then it's how do you make the audience feel attached to the character if the character themselves is always wearing masks? You need to have some time where you get at the root of them, you know?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you can do is focus on the reader having some knowledge as to why the character is motivated to do anything, and then you have them switching roles within the story because the story demands it. They can be on one side of the factions of the heroes and the villains, and we know where their allegiance truly lies. That's a way that you can write it, is basically giving the readers a little bit of the hint of, this is where they're really kind of connected to. Mm-hmm. But for all the characters in the story, they could be jumping back and forth. I think that's something that you could do, but it's very different from when you were talking about having a character that just switches once.
Right. And for something like that, I would say one of the ways you can really make it mean a lot more is to make the reasons for the switch be tied to the overarching themes of the story, especially the ones pertaining to the main protagonist.
For sure.
Because then you can have that, whole mirror of like, them kind of seeing themselves in their fallen hero or, or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Next question is from Siesta Song. Which villain is your favorite from the Vanguard, Action Squad, and MHA? Mine is either Twice or Mr. Compress. Okay.
Yeah, mine would probably be Twice.
Mine would probably be Twice as well, but the thing is, Twice is just kind of entertaining and fun.
Yeah, he's a caricature right now.
The one I'm most excited about is Dobby, because I'm going hard on the Dobby Todoroki theory. It's something that...
I mean, we could totally be wrong, but just the fact that it's set up so that it would be so perfect if it did happen, like,
if Dobby's not a Todoroki, I'm gonna owe a lot of people some money. I think that Dobby being the edgy character is kind of the misdirect to make us think okay, he's just an angsty teen.
Plan around that plan.
Yes. Yeah. Ethereal Reader. What are some of your favorite side characters from Hunter x Hunter? Okay. You go first.
All right. Well, so there's three that just immediately popped into my mind. Mm-hmm. The first one isn't really a character, but I have to mention them. That is Sniper Girl, because I love snipers.
From the Hunter exam?
Yeah. Could have stuck around longer. But then Hanzo, I loved Hanzo.
I loved
all the times he was on
well.
screen. And then Killwa's friend from the Zoldyck estate, that was the apprentice butler girl. And we thought she died at that one point. I can't remember what her name was.
Apprentice butler girl.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
She has the dark hair and everything.
Yeah. I remember her character.
And the staff.
Yeah, that's so side character. I almost forgot about her. So when you say side characters, I'm guessing you're not meaning Hisoka.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not, because Hunter x Hunter doesn't really have a separation between main and side characters, because they switch character perspective quite a lot.
Yeah, because it's such a discovery-based story, you can think that someone's going to be a main character and they're gone for a long time, right. Or someone's a side character, but then they're...
I really loved Melody. Melody was probably one of the most unique side characters for a vengeance action thriller arc. Mm-hmm. She was just the complete antithesis to that. Yep. I really loved Machi from the Phantom Troop, in particular. And probably if I had to go way back, I really liked Hanzo. When you brought up Hanzo, I was like, oh yes. Hanzo's character provided a really cool moment for Gon at the end of the Hunter exam. Yeah. But the fact that it was his character made it so good for him to be the one in that moment, because up until that point we had specific moments that built him up quite well.
But not
but I'm
in
kind
the
of
I'm the cold ninja type way.
No, not at all. But I'm kind of piggybacking off of your thing there. But I'd say Melody is definitely my number one favorite side character.
Good mention. Yeah, Melody's amazing.
We have Wait, What's This For? Asks, is there any show, or any story for that matter, that you love but never or rarely revisit? Shout out from the Shonen Junkies. Oh, cool. That's really tough, because the stories that I love, I will rarely not rewatch.
Gotcha.
Basically.
Well,
what about you?
So the one that immediately came to mind, and I think there's another one that I'm not thinking of, but oh no, yeah, I remember what they are. Okay, so ReZero for one, because it was I really loved that one, but it was such a thriller type thing, and it did the whole discovery aspect of the thriller thing too. So I feel like I already know the stuff, so there's not as like the idea of rewatching it isn't as appealing. The other one is Cowboy Bebop. I love that story, that anime. It's amazing. But when I rewatch it, I usually end up getting bored because I don't like the episodic format, even though the characters are so good.
Yeah. Okay. I don't really have an answer.
Gotcha.
I revisit everything that I love. That's why I love it generally. Fatitske asks, how did you guys come up with Semblance of Sanity, and why did you use it as your channel name? Shout out to League of Lollies. Hey! So I can take credit for coming up with the name, right?
Well, what we were trying to do is we were like, okay, because when our channel started, right? Originally we were like, hey, let's just start reacting to
Ruby.
some Ruby Volume 4 stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then it turned into this. But back then we were like, okay, so what do we call it? And because of that, we were wanting to do something Ruby related, hence the Semblance part. And the of Sanity part was, I had this idea because Caleb hadn't watched Disappearance yet, and I was like, all right. If it's SOS, then that would be we could potentially call it the SOS Brigade.
Yeah, I think Jacob was pushing for the SOS Brigade as the name for the channel, like way back when.
And Caleb was like, come on, be serious.
Like let's actually make it our own thing. And one of the phrases that really I appreciate a lot in stories is Semblance of Sanity. It's something that people will kind of casually throw out there as someone losing or holding on to a semblance of sanity.
Right.
And my idea was that if we're going to kind of have a gamut of emotions on display on a video and stuff, people are going to be like, these guys are crazy.
Weirdos? Yeah, these guys are crazy. Yeah.
And we're going to be able to make the point of, no, it's okay. We have a semblance of sanity.
Yeah.
And that's where the pun essentially came from, is that there's so many potential puns you could give with Semblance of Sanity.
Or at least you can just keep beating the same one or two puns until it's a dead horse, and
but it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
SOS Brigade fits into there because then we merge that into SOS Bros.
Exactly.
And then the Discord is called the SOS Brigade.
Right.
So yeah, that's how we came up with it. Emmy, I'm going to butcher this, Kiads? I don't know. Emmy,
probably right.
Emmy asks, do you guys have any tips on writing tragic backstory without making it too edgelord and no one can understand my pain kind of story?
I would say you answered your question in the question because, you said like the bad example, right, is the to edgelord no one can understand my pain, right? Well, in that statement there, what are they doing? They're focusing on whatever their tragic backstory was. They're making it so that that's the only thing that really matters. So don't do that.
Right.
If the backstory is really tragic, then it should have a big effect. Don't make it be something where it's like, just randomly throw it in there, and now that should explain why they are the way they are today. But they're more than their backstory, right?
Right.
They're an actual character. So
it's also their backstory. It's not their present story.
It's not their present story.
Right.
And we don't. And who likes characters that are constantly thinking about the past and the past alone? You want them to be grounded in the present, right? That's where we can get the most connection to them.
Right.
So have it in there.
Yep.
Be respectful about it, depending on how tragic this backstory is.
Yeah.
But don't have it own them.
Yeah, I think a really great example of that recently that's very popular, and it's a very simple character. It's a very simple character, but it's one of Jacob's favorite characters in this show, is Mikasa Ackerman.
Yep.
She is a great example of a character that has a very tragic backstory, doesn't bring it up over and over and over again.
But it's constantly
called back to by her connection and relationship to Eren.
Yeah.
So it's a very simple type of thing. She doesn't ever go full kudere. She doesn't ever go full yandere.
Right.
She's one of those characters that I think people had trouble classifying her at some point, so just threw Mary Sue title on her and were like, come on, guys. Like,
that's
no,
not
that's not her
Sue
character at all.
Yeah.
So, Ethenry asks, what makes for a really strong shonen protagonist in your opinion, and which of the shonen leads in shows you're watching at the moment do you prefer?
Antagonist
ascendancy. Yeah, antagonist ascendancy.
I would say, like, you can look at the first episode of Haikyuu and the first 3 episodes of My Hero Academia.
Yep.
And basically just take that as the staple guideline of what to do.
Yep. Template that crap. Like, that's the good stuff right there. I think a lot of shonens have really strong beginnings, but the thing is, you can tell that these shows will have longevity because of how well they got that main character introduction beginning part just done.
Yeah.
They did it, and they did it well.
Focus, like when in doubt, focus more and more on the motivations of the main character and why they care so much.
Why? They need to care a lot, but we need to know why they care a lot.
Right, especially for a shonen, because that's all about, like, you know, youth and positivity, or you know, whatever angle you want to do.
For sure.
It's when people care in a lot of ways the most.
Right.
So your main character should care more than main characters in most other stories.
Right. As far as which ones we prefer, we just told you. So, next question is from Holy Grail. What's your favorite classic meme? Hashtag Shonen Junkies. Okay, classic meme.
Why are we still here?
Yeah, that's
Just
a good one.
suffer.
That's a good one. But as far as like classic memes, I really have a lot of nostalgia around the old I Can Has Cheeseburger kind of memes out there. Now, this was a format. This wasn't a meme in and of itself. But I spent many nights just scrolling and clicking the next page of just lolcats. Those are my thing. Those are my jam. Like, I made friendships that lasted forever through just reading through those together.
Ooh. Okay, here's another one. This is, all right, there are some memes that, like, I'll see them repeated over and over again, and they'll get old really quick, like the Beyblade one or something like that. But there's this one, and this one, somehow, I don't know why, but it never seems to get old. And that is the deja vu, I just been in space before. Whenever I am watching, like, some sort of, like, crack video or whatever, and they use that, it never gets old.
That's pretty good as well. If I had to choose one from that, I'm a really big fan of it's free real estate. That one gets me every single time. Final question is from Shay Sheila. Do you bros also watch and discuss show and anime together outside of doing it for the channel? And if so, for how long have you been doing it? Shout out to the League of Lollies. Hey. So yes, we do.
Yeah.
But not that much anymore.
Right, because most of the time it's just for, you know, the shows.
Yeah, we would like to do that with you guys.
Right. We still do it for, like, live action, like whenever we go and watch movies or something like that.
When we go watch Star Wars, when we go watch Marvel, when we go watch like a latest like thriller or even a romance or whatever like that, we'll do it like that. It's one of those things where we've considered every once in a while being like, hey, should we do reviews of those? We're like, they've gotten semi good feedback, and it's like, well, okay, let's just stick with what we're doing and not get too distracted here. Yeah. But that is the end of the Q&A section. Thank you so much for your questions, guys. They were fantastic.
Yes.
Please leave questions in the comments below so that we can answer those in our next week's podcast.
Yeah.
Next week's podcast is going to be decided by a poll by the winner of May Madness. So be prepared for some wacky podcast subject next week. It's going to be fun. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next one. But until then, we're Semblance to Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.